What's up, everyone? It's Danny Vega, aka Danny V, and I have a very special guest today on TDVLIVE. If you don't know what TDVLIVE is, this is where it's all about the mental, how to grow your mind and spirit together. And I have a very special guest today. I have a great friend who's like family to me. He's been my master martial arts for many years, and he has many titles under his belt. He's a martial arts master, an author, a champion bodybuilder. He even has his own day in the state of Florida, Rodney Robertson Day, and many other titles under his belt. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to my master, my friend, Master Rodney Robertson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's really
Yeah, man, I'm super excited, guys. You have no idea. So, Master Robertson, you're originally from New York, correct?
yeah, Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, 1975, baby.
Woo!
Woo!
And it's so funny because both of us are from New York, so that was always a plus when we first met.
Right.
Oh,
There's no place like New York. And once you come from New York, something is in you forever. Something. It's a fight. It's a spirit. Something's there.
yeah, we say we can tell our own immediately.
That's right. Yes, sir. We got it.
So, there were a couple of things. So, you started martial arts at a very young age, and you even trained in Africa. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was actually, and still is the reason that a big part of who I am. I mean, I started at 8 years old and I've been training ever since. Like, there's not been some time off. The only time off was, oh, I'm playing football now, so I'll get back to the dojo later. But 8 years old, and my brother and I, we had the opportunity to train private training. We had a special retired Army captain who was like a Shotokan expert. So he used to come out and teach us. And it was old school. I mean, that was, let's see, 1982, 83. And, that was when martial arts was, if you're tough, you stay. If you can't, you admit it and walk out. You don't sue nobody. You don't complain. Your mom or dad don't save you. You're tough or you're not. And a big part of that training never left me. It always was a standard of, this is something you do to mark yourself, measure yourself, step up or step down. But there was no in between. And still to this day, a little bit of that is in me. That doesn't go nowhere. No matter what I go through, it's like, okay, so what's going to get done? Like,
Yeah.
so that attitude is there.
So, what made that move to Africa? Wasn't it your dad's work?
Yes, my dad was working with big USAID companies then, and when they had him traveling and sent, so finally he was going to be gone too many years. It's one thing to go 6 months, come back, but this was going to be years of a project. So we ended up being gone about 5, 6 years. In that time, we had the love of Bruce Lee, like everybody else in that time, Chuck Norris, there was a handful of people, and we just wanted to know. We just had to see what was that thing going on the screen. How does that happen? All right, and we got the opportunity, and probably to date, the best personal thing that is the thin red line in my life is to be a martial artist.
Yeah, wow. That was insane because Instructor Robertson, your brother, Ryan Robertson, everybody, by the way, reactions and reviews, R&R on YouTube. They're
Cool.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's his brother.
Okay. He's a clown.
Yeah. But he made it seem like you guys were in Africa like quick. I didn't know it was 5 to 6 years.
Oh yeah. I speak French because of that time. Just that time, it was a steady time frame, and 5 or 6 years, and doing martial arts, private training twice a week, hour and a half at a time for, year and a half or 2 years, something like that. So when you're doing private training at a certain age where somebody is making you do push-ups on your knuckles, having you do handstands, when you're in a stance, hitting you to condition you, and you're like, I'm just 8. Like, but that's still part of like the toughness. It's there. It's like, to me, it's like, you train or you don't train. Done.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Oh yeah, it set the standard.
Yeah, that's more like if you hear anyone that trains like that now, is definitely MMA fighters. There's no longer, I feel, I haven't seen a school like yours in a long time. There is no more traditional martial arts that is that hardcore. To me, I could be totally wrong. They could still be out there. I'm gonna kick that dude's ass,
Yeah,
But
no, I agree with you, because today we have to consider people complaining and everybody is so happy. Like the world. I mean, if you think about it, there was a time in life where something would be an agreement on a handshake. Today, you got to have all these legal documents because everybody has to sue somebody. So even in what would be hardcore training, if you're training hard and you condition somebody and they have 1 or 2 bruises, they're coming back with a story. And, when I was younger, that was just, yeah, we were training. I got to heal now. you know?
yeah, that's so funny that you say that. I remember one time, it was when Instructor Robertson was training me at the dojang, and he was showing me what you guys used to do, and he would hit me with the screamer sticks on my legs. And I came in one time to train with Walter and Travis, and my legs were black and blue when I changed. And Travis was like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Hard training." And then he's just like, "Oh my God, that's crazy." And then Walter was like, "No, that's
Yeah,
training."
that's training. That's
And
right.
that was it. But to normal
You
people,
know,
that's like, "What the hell?"
what the hell? Yeah, to some people, oh, sadistic people. You know, if you've been through that, everything else is a joke.
Yeah.
You know, it's you were a part of the time where it's like, I could take my mind and my body to another level to get what I want. And anything less than that, when you've experienced it, it's like a champion. When a champion finally wins and knows how to win, anything less than winning doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. When you've trained that level, when you could say, ouch, ouch, but I'm better, stronger, faster, more focused, more disciplined, you don't understand how to not do it again.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't have to constantly be that way, but you've experienced it, you know.
Yeah, and that's
So
something I definitely needed. Someone that was, because I still consider myself an emotional person, but not as much as I used to be. I think I was too far as an emotional person. And for you and your brother and many other teachers in martial arts that stuck that with me, it balanced me out, I feel. And it was the seeds planted then that allowed me to grow. The more that I discovered more mental and how it affects the body and everything else, that was a good balance. Like, it's something that I needed, and I'm grateful for that, because those seeds sprouted into roots, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh cool, if it wasn't for that, I have no idea, I'd probably still be, whining about everything and complaining, you know.
right now,
And
you
so
had you had your growth spurt, and you needed, like you said, you needed a certain toughness, a certain rigid, a certain discipline to pull up your other side. And eventually, that's where everybody's headed to. Everybody's wanting to achieve some type of balance, right? The greatest martial arts symbol is yin and yang. And that tells it all right there. Even when you know nothing about martial arts, when you look at that symbol, you're like, even, balance, same. Your mind knows it's something in that world. when you actually get into studying, you know exactly what that symbol means.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how long would it have been now? How many years of training altogether?
Oh, it's going to be like, yeah, 37, 38 years.
Woo!
38 years, several disciplines. I have a second degree black belt in Shotokan. I have a junior black belt in Hapkido. I have a sixth degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a brown senior, which means my next black belt in Kabuto. So I'm a brown senior in Kabuto is Okinawan weaponry. And then Tai Chi is not something you earn a black belt in, but 7 years later, 6, 7 years later, if they would rank you a black belt, I'd be that. Tai Chi is more of something you just keep experiencing. And when someone sees how well you know it, they're like, you must be. So it's more of just the look of you, the wisdom of you, then people go, oh, you're one of the seniors then. Very much like yoga. Yoga doesn't rank you, but you could tell when somebody's been doing yoga a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And then,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, that's the humble list. He also has like Gung Fu and Wing Chun, and like this dude knows if you're like, hey, there's a breathing martial arts. He's like, oh, I know it.
I know, yeah. Well, yeah, I did praying mantis kung fu for 2.5 years. I did that, and then we did tiger martial arts for a couple months, and then kickboxing.
Mm-hmm.
Always kickboxing between. But in the end, no matter how many different titles, in the end, it's being a part of the arts. Period. It's the arts. Like that's the umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So your journey, and I love this because everyone was just like, oh, like while we're talking, everyone's like, oh, that's hardcore or whatever of the training that you originally started with,
I did.
but a lot of people, I've mentioned you in the episode with Robin, is that a lot of people would never guess how chilled, laid back you are, super wise, and then not on top of that, before when I was younger, we were all about strong, strength, in the gym, hardcore, da da da. But now your mind is more on what's best, for the individual. If this person's hardcore, yeah, hardcore. But if this person needs poomsae, needs poomsae. If this person needs, which reminded me of Bruce Lee, because they asked Bruce Lee in an interview, who is your best student? And he goes, what do you mean by that? And they're like, well, your best student. He's like, no, if you want to say who's the best fighter, he's the best fighter. If you want to say who's the best form, she's the best form. Who has the best, like, sharp technique, this person's the best with that. He's like, you got to get specific. And I love that evolution that you had. So tell us a little bit, like, how that mindset changed through your journey.
Oh, thank you. Well, like like you said with Bruce Lee, who's the best student? The best student is never somebody that you could like individually identify, because if each person under you becomes their best, your job is accomplished. So if each person becomes their best, everybody's your best student. And that's something you want for yourself, and you want that as a teacher. You want to get somebody to the point where few people get to, where you get to say these words: it's my martial arts.
Mm.
Until it becomes ownership, it's not yours. But when you finally reach the stage or the age with ability where you say, well, I have to block like this because maybe my shoulder rotation doesn't accept, or my focus is this, so I train right here and I stay away from here. This is not where my mindset is right now. When you start having to own every individual thing you do, it becomes your art. Bruce Lee said, if first day I taught you and years later that I teach you, if you can't show me that you're different, then I failed. And you see, sometimes some teachers want you to start one way and 3 years later be exactly what they said? No. Then you missed the journey of finding the journey, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the greatest thing to remember is that most traditional martial arts ends in the word do. So you're supposed to seek the way, the path. That's what do means. So if you don't, under your teacher's guidance, seek your way, seek your path, then you're just mimicking your teacher. That's not what your teacher's supposed to want. Your teacher's supposed to want that you find you.
Yeah.
Even if that veers you from his vision, fine. A good teacher doesn't mind you veering off. Only the poor teachers are like, follow me. Why? Why don't I follow you until I can lead myself?
Yeah.
That's like when we're growing up. We follow mom and dad to a certain amount of years, and then we got to cut off, right?
Yeah.
A good teacher's supposed to do the same thing.
And that's amazing that you say that, because we know what it's like to be like, nope, you got to be exactly like this. But what's amazing about that is that you never were like that. Even when all of us had to be the same, you always did your thing. And for some reason, you never got in trouble for it.
You know why? I think from the very beginning, I established that I would work hard. I will show you that I'm a good student. I will learn your philosophy. I will do whatever it takes, but I'm going to do it my way. And I put that up front, and I never wavered on it. And still to this day, I tell everybody, including anybody that's close to me, your only job in life is to become the best version of yourself before you die. We don't have a million jobs. We have one job. And becoming the best version of yourself may have branches like, oh, now you're a father or a mother or a husband or a cousin or a big brother or an uncle. You may have versions, little branches, but the main point is, before you die, you have to become the best version of yourself. That's it. So when you close your eyes, you could say, I think I live life the way I want it. Like that's the end result.
Absolutely. Bruce Lee used to say that all the time. He said martial arts is self-expression. So it's the individual's expression of the art. So I'm grateful that you said that. And speaking of which, because you're talking about philosophy and wisdom, where did that originate from? I know for a fact that when I was growing up under you in your school, is that a lot of the wisdom started with always my mother said. And then sometimes my father said, but majority of the time was my mother said this. So would you say that your mom is like the biggest influence on that wisdom, or how did that come into play into your life?
Oh, no, that's a great question. I do say a lot. My mother said, my father would say, or my father did. But the greatest thing that I had growing up was that I was a listener. I didn't mind the conversations, whereas sometimes in youth or in teenage years, you're like, oh, what are you talking to me for? I was the opposite. I was always like, let me find out why you're saying what you're saying. I was interested that way. So there were times where, being young, I would pick up things that were supposed to go over the average person's head. So I would say that my mom became what I call my conscious voice. Then I kept matching it as I got older to my own voice. So there'd be a time that I could go, my mom would expect me to do this, or say this. And then it became, no, I expect me to say this, or this. But her voice was a guideline. I want you to think of it this way. If you look at a street under construction, they put cones.
Hmm.
and they say stay within these cones. The other areas are under construction. Mom was the cones. So it was easy for me to say, all right, so just stay here. So her information, just stay here until I could find the road for myself.
Hmm.
So, and with that, she said a lot of amazing things. Still to this day, I could sit back and say, in this scenario, she quoted this, she said that. It applies now, it applies later. So I just always wanted to be someone that by the time I got older, I could say, I listened and I reapplied, you
Yeah,
know.
that's amazing because especially I remember the few moments that I got to sit with your mom and talk. And she did it also so gracefully with a few words. It wasn't like this whole. See, my challenge is for me when I'm trying to explain something, I do like this long rant because I want someone to understand. But the thing
Right.
that you and your mom have in common, especially, is that you have the few words that just somehow get straight to the point that give you the aha moment. You're like, wait, yeah, like, yes.
That's it. But
Exactly.
you know what though? The human brain, as much as we think we can take, if it doesn't hit us instant and quick, then we let it go.
Yeah.
And that I think that's the key in being a speaker, a teacher, a leader, a coach. You want to have that speech that says, all right, let's go.
Mm.
Versus, I heard what you said, but it's so long I can't even remember. Like that's dangerous. So the key is impactful, just like a good punch. A good punch is impactful. It can't take forever.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's boom. Right. So knowledge got to feel like that. Like boom. Oh, that makes sense. I understand it. I'm on it. Let's go.
That's awesome. I'm writing that one down. Impactful, quick.
Quick, quick.
So, where did your mom get that? Was it from her family? Was it from self education? Just like books that she read. Because I remember what really got me into books a lot more than I used to be was actually you and your mom recommending stuff. So that's why was that her whole journey, if you can recall?
Oh no, I totally can recall. My mom is what you would call from the generation where her father said, you don't have to be smart, you don't have to get educated, your job is to grow up and be a wife.
Hmm.
But mom was always the mindset of, I want to be educated, I want to learn. And up until her ninth or 10th grade, which is, her highest level of learning, she was always the top in school, and her father still yanked her out.
Hmm.
So, with only that amount of physical or education to that point, everything else, all the way up to nursing, she read.
Oh,
She read.
wow.
She read her way to nursing to the point where she could just go and take a test and pass it. So she already came from the mindset of when you really want something, you're not going to be stopped. And her constant, still to this day, her constant single advice to myself and my brothers was this statement, and I'm going to quote it. I don't care what you become. I don't care if you become a garbage man. You better win awards picking up the garbage.
Oh, wow.
Still to this day, same words, same quote, and that never left. In other words, whatever you do, become good at it. I'm not telling you what to become. I don't care what you become, but be good at it. And
Yeah.
she used garbage man. Like, if that's what you become, get an award for it. It's like,
Wow.
doesn't get any smarter than that.
Yeah, and that's so funny because out of all the, if you want to go into Buddhism, Out of everything the Buddha said, he ended it with just do your best.
That's right. Personal enlightenment can never be overlooked. You know, people think they know the word enlightenment because it sounds illuminating. But the truth of the matter is, the word enlightenment is almost, if you take it literally, in, in, light, right? So the light within you, and then not to keep it, the light within you gets illuminated. So once you have a light, your job is to shine it. Who holds a flashlight without putting it on?
Yep.
So once you become a flashlight, you're supposed to project. You're supposed to tell. You're supposed to teach.
Mm-hmm. That's great that you said that, because for our listeners out there, there's a quote that you said that stuck with me forever. And now that my mind is in the right space and I'm actually doing things the way I want to, etc., it never left. It's more true to me now than ever. I remember one time I used to tell you all the time, oh, well, I do for others. I do for others all the time, and I don't understand why no one does for me, and yada, yada, yada. And you said, Vega, you got to do for yourself. You're like, and you said this, you're like, if you ask me for $5 and I don't have it, how can I give it to you?
Right?
And you said, and even if I had $5 and you asked me for five, I can't give you five because that's everything that I have. But if I have 20, of course I can give you $5 with no problem.
Right. And I still to this day, I'm glad you remember that, because that's a life lesson still people make a lot of mistakes on. Our job is to give, but we cannot give to the point that we're personally depleted, because then we can't give again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to find some type of timing, like, okay, I gave of myself, I gave timing, I gave knowledge, I gave money, and now you got to back up a little bit. You got to fill your tank back up before you allow people in. So it's almost to make the time for yourself so that people can gain from you. If you think of the greatest people that have graced our life, Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, you name anybody who's of any significance, they built something within themselves that people could pull on, take on. And every once in a while, they had to withdraw and build it up again. But you just cannot give, 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 give. It sounds cute, sounds nice, but in the end, give, 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 and never replenish means burnt out, angry, and pissed.
Yeah, it's definitely a hell of a way to build resentment, and I know it. I know it firsthand. And, it's great that we want to help others, but if you can't help yourself, then what's the point? It's like you said, you can't light a candle without lighting yours first. Once you light yours, then you can light other people's.
Other people's candles. That's right. Very true statement. I like.
So for you, because of everything you've accomplished and everything, do you have a specific routine for your mindset and wisdom currently?
Yes. Yes. I'm one of those people where that is not a fly by night thing. And it's this simple. I could tell it to you. Number one, do not make it hard to be happy. That's the number one thing you cannot do to yourself. How? If you wake up, consider yourself lucky. Somebody else died overnight. If you see family and friends awake, consider yourself lucky and become happy. The rest of the day you could deal with. Somebody is waking up and hearing mom, dad, cousin, blah, blah, somebody passed. So if you just start with that, like, you know what? God let me get up. I'm good. Everything else, I have an opportunity. If you just start with that, as soon as you get up, then you're happy.
Yeah.
But you see what most people do, most people put too many tears to be happy. And most people export happiness. And it sounds like this: when I go on vacation, I'm going to be happy. When you call me, I'm going to be happy. If I get a raise, they're exporting it. It's always something that's got to come versus I'm up, I'm alive, no bad news, I'm good. Everything else I'll deal with. So don't make it hard to be happy, number one. Number two, accept that you cannot control anything other than this moment. People, I call it the present. Future, present, past, present, present. Most people are presently in the past. That means when you talk to them, presently, they're in front of you, but the conversation's always like, well, 2 weeks ago and like a month ago, you know what happened last year? They're presently in the past. And some people are presently in the future. Well, next week and a month from now, I got. And they're both wasting their time because the past is gone and the future isn't born. The only moment you control, the only moment you live in is this moment, right now. No matter how much we talk about next week, you and I may not see it. Right?
Yeah.
So this is all we control. And no matter how much we drum up 5, 15, 20 years ago, it's just a story. It's not coming back. Mm. But a lot of people are presently in the past or presently in the future. They're never presently present.
Yeah.
So everything that could go right today, they don't see it. So that's my two things. Immediately, deal with today and don't make it hard to be happy.
That's
just like that.
That's awesome. For me, what really broke me open was that whole not the first episode. I thought it broke me open, but I think the second episode of the super flare up that I had for the psoriasis,
Yeah.
I think the second time really got me in that mindset because I was just like, I got to the point that I had to walk on a cane and all this jazz. So the days that I didn't feel the pain, I was like, oh, thank you, the day. But it made me grateful. And so your gratitude practice is a real thing. I know it sounds super cliche for a lot of people because obviously every speaker and their mom says, oh, you got to be grateful. You got to be grateful. But if you genuinely practice gratitude, there's a difference. Like, I study every day. I have the book Daily Stoic. So every day I read in the morning the philosophy. And one thing that Marcus Aurelius said a lot was, know that you're going to deal with these challenges. And he goes, and if you know that, then you can deal with them better. Because I really do feel, like you said, about making us not happy is because our expectations of control of what it must be, and that causes suffering. And I said this with Robin too, and is actually the source of it, which is funny. The source of it was actually from you when you told me this when I was going through rough times, was a serenity prayer. I love it, even though I'm not personally religious. I love it because it is so true. It's like, control what you can, let go of what you can't, but know the difference.
The difference. And a lot of people mess up knowing the difference. They're putting their effort and emphasis on what's not supposed to change. It's like, that's not going to change. No matter what me and you do, we can't make the sky the ground. There's nothing we can do. The sky is the sky. So it sounds silly, but now think of what some people do. Some people take a situation like that and they put all their energy into that concept. It's like, that's not going to change, buddy. Today, tomorrow, 10 years, change yourself, change colors, be blue in the face. It's not changing.
Yeah.
So to know the difference is the wisdom.
Hmm.
That's so yeah, serenity prayer. It's yeah.
So do you also do you do any more reading, documentaries? You know, what would be your go-to for extra wisdom, or just even just talking to, let's say your mom or other people?
Well, I could tell you that talking to my mom, it's always just like a touch up.
Mm.
So it's been there so many years, but I could have a touch up. I'm at that point in my life where I'm pretty self driven. I do read and do watch a lot of highlights of people's life that I think are great people. So that is something that I try to hold on to, whether it's like, recently I've done a lot of, what made Kobe Bryant Kobe Bryant. And, he's sadly, he left us, but he still lived his best 40 years. That's all we are supposed to be happy for versus somebody that wasted their 40 years. He bested his years. He became everything and anything he could have become because of the mindset he was. So even though his life is short, it was full. And some people have a full life that's empty. So I love reading things like that. And, also, with Robin, she's pretty, you know, mentally into her, like you said, no, not very religious, but she has a spiritual twist. So we have good conversations there too. But a lot of it is just I myself, I am very relaxed. I understand not just what I can control, what I don't. I understand myself. Like, I understand what will never bother me. I understand what I will say. Okay, I'll deal with that. And then I understand, like, I'm not even addressing that. You can keep that problem. Like, I'm very in tune to myself. And once you become in tune to yourself, you're more at peace. You don't have to explain and you don't have to worry. No, you're like, that's the decision I'm making. I know why I'm making it. I don't need you to understand it. There's a certain strength that comes with it.
So how would you deal with challenges? Most people cave with challenges. When I was younger, obviously, I used to make any small little thing like the biggest thing in the world, and you would be like, "Calm down." but, but what are some tips for the listeners? What would you say how to see challenges? Like, how would you see them, and how can they actually handle them better, rather than just like freaking out and letting their emotions control them?
Well, now we go back to being a martial artist. So the first thing that I learned from martial arts is the reason why still to this day I almost could take on a challenge and barely break a sweat. And people are always like, man, I just brought my problem to him. He was, oh, it's this. And like, like, like if like I have, but the truth of the matter is this. From the time that you're a martial artist, all you do is solve a problem. Somebody's going to punch you in the face, block high. Somebody's going to hit you in the middle, protect the middle. Right? Somebody's going to grab you, keep their arms apart. You're always solving the problem. The board is in front of you, go through it. You can't use your hand, use your foot. Your foot's not strong enough, your hand's not weak enough, use your elbow. You're always solving a problem in martial arts from day one. So when you train long enough, that's your attitude. My attitude is to solve problems. It's like, all right, really? That's all right. How about this, and this? It's automatic because I take everything, I take a challenge like being in a fight and being attacked. If I'm going to be punched in the face, I don't have all day. It's like, I better have some type of, something's got to happen. So my mind works like that. Challenge goes back to martial arts. Martial arts says solve the problem. Martial arts says apply something. And most people look at a challenge, and they grow the challenge bigger than the challenge is. So when you take a little rock and you turn it into this, now it looks like a problem. But I'm the kind of person where I see the little rock and I go, okay, well, if this is all that we got to do, then how about these three scenarios? One of these three scenarios should smash this rock. But most people look at the rock, they build it this big, and then they look and they go, nah, I don't have any tools to hit this big rock. And the growth of the problem, 99% of the time, is mentally. We grow problems bigger. We sit, we fester, we worry, we daydream, we just keep manifesting versus, if you had cancer, they never say, let's enlarge it. They say, let's shrink it. Let's shrink the tumor. So when we enlarge something, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So my mindset just sees it like that very quickly.
Yeah. So how would you tell someone that, like, those steps of your mindset? Because like I said, for people like me, or how I used to be, that would be quick to enlarge a problem, what would you tell them to do? Like, would you tell them to breathe? Would you tell them, what are some tips that you would tell them how to minimize it and actually deal with the problem? Because like you said, it's within, so obviously it's rising up and they can't see that. How can we just like push it
That's a
back
great,
down?
that's a great question. Two things. Number one, first, always take a deep breath in. That's the beginning of martial arts. People think Jumbi position, which is also ready. People think ready position means ready to punch, ready to kick, ready. No, no, no. Ready position means ready the mind, bring the fist down, calm yourself with your breathing so that you can act rationally according to whatever comes. Sometimes we're punched, sometimes somebody's arguing, sometimes it's an accidental thing, like what? Car accident? What? Sometimes it's you go out to your car, the car's not starting. Only when you're calm, solutions come to you. That's number one. Number two, before you fatten the size of a problem, ask yourself this question every time. In a year from now, in a week from now, will this matter? And if the answer is no, then drop it on the spot. On the spot. So today, you could argue with someone, and if you could say, a year from now, will this conversation matter between us? No? Then just be like, hey, sorry. We got off track. My bad. Now, a year from now, does this conversation matter? Yes, because it's part of my dignity. Then fight if it matters. Make something of it. Don't back down. But if it's nothing, no, forget it. My bad. We're good. That simple mindset. Know what matters, know what doesn't, and always take a deep breath in, center yourself, because only a calm mind can see still waters. Only. There's a saying, shaky waters or rough waters make a good sailor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the good sailor is calm in the shaky water.
Yes.
So the shaky water, so see, problems make us stronger, but only if we are calm in the problem.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember the quote that, and it's funny. I don't know if he got it from you or you both got it from your mom, but both you and Instructor Robertson used to say about your roots. you know, a tree that's strongly rooted into the ground, when the wind blows, nothing happens. But if it has weak roots, falls over. And that's
That,
just like the mind. If it's not settled, if it's not all the way in, then that's it. You're in trouble. You're gonna topple
yeah.
over.
And you know why? Because the human experience, the very human experience of living, is all happening within us. There is no experience about life that is external. So I'll explain what this means. When you feel happiness, it's inside. When you feel joyous inside. When you're angry, it's inside. When you're frustrated, inside. When you're jealous, it's inside. Every human emotion, if me and you listed 100 of them, they're within.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing external. You think, like, you could say, I am angry at that person. The person is external. Your angry is in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's to this person, but the anger is still in you. So there's no human emotion that's outside of us. So only being calm brings the best of your human emotions, because nothing's outside. That's why the better someone gets in their career, whether sports or entertainment or business, the better you get. Every great person has one thing at some point they say, oh, the competition is me. When you're younger, you think it's other people. You got to beat this person, you got to best it. And then later on, you're like, no, it's what I do and what I don't do. Because you reach a point where you realize life's experience is in you. It's not anywhere else.
Yeah.
Somebody died, where you feel it? In your heart. Somebody's born, you're happy inside. Nothing's outside of us. It's our youth that projects it out. But as you get older, you're like, oh, I'm dealing with that in here. Now, the question is, are you dealing with it good or bad?
Yeah.
But it's here.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm glad you say that. I love how everything that I want to talk about is like flowing exactly the way it needs to be right now. So, we're both, you know, ex-students of Grandmaster Kim, and I remember one time he told me, he would say, emotions are like roller coasters. It goes up and down. That's why you never follow emotions. And then he said that that's why we follow principles and values.
Yes.
And
Right.
so for me, I think that self-reflection, like I told Robin this too, self-reflection is a key important, because the state of your mind right now, your principles and values right now, even with the utmost intentions, may not be the right ones right now.
Right.
So that's why I believe self reflection is a very key important. Like you're saying, are you dealing with it well or are you not? And that's a within question.
Right.
Because no, if you ask people that are like you, they're like, yeah, you're fine, and can keep you stuck. You
Right.
have to find people better than you to be like, no, there's a totally different way. So for you, uh, your principles and values, what were they? How did they shift over time? Like you're saying, with age and et cetera and experiences, how did they change over time? And how would you focus? How, like, what can our viewers do to focus on principles and values instead of riding that roller coasters of emotions?
Right. Well, it's a fine line because you cannot take away anyone's emotion. That's also part of life. Our emotions are in us. You can guide them to understand that their emotions need some type of control. Our our emotions are like the ocean. It's really, really hard to be in waters that are crashing and soaring, right? That no, you don't want to boat in that. You don't want to surf in that. Everybody's afraid of it. So if that's happening in you, you have to understand you should be afraid of yourself.
Hmm.
Now, when you, since you do understand that your emotions are part of you, it doesn't mean silence it. It means put perspective on your emotions. So if you're mad at your mother, for example, you got to say, okay, I'm pissed at my mom, but the perspective is that's the only mother I have.
Hmm.
So let me put things in focus here. You could know a lot of women in your life. You only have one mother. So when you say, you know what, I mean, how mad can I be at my only mother? Do I really have to go there, or can I get a deep breath in, let 40% of it go, sit her down, talk about the other 60%, whether it gains or a little bit, like maybe we get 20% ground or maybe nothing at all, but I had the conversation and I remembered that she's the only one that will ever be that person. So that's a perspective. Same thing, whether it's a brother or cousin or this or that. We just have to learn to put perspective of like, hey, I know 50,000 people. All right, that's what we feel as we're young. I have 10,000 friends. By the time you're in high school, I got 300 friends. By the time you graduate high school, I know 8 people.
Hmm.
The older you get, the fewer people you really know, and the fewer people really mean something to you. Like the number keeps shrinking. Why? Because of that perspective. So we're entitled to our emotion, but we should always attach, what does this person or what does this situation mean to me? Is it greater than my anger? Okay, I'm upset with my boss, but I love my job. All right, I don't want to lose my job. Let me take a deep breath in. Let me write my boss a note. Maybe I can't talk face to face, but maybe I could get a note in, and then maybe the note will cause him to make a meeting with me. There's always a way. And then you say, even though I'm pissed at my boss, but I love my job. So my perspective is behave because I love my job. We always have to pull up what's the greater situation than our emotion. Most people want their emotion to be the biggest thing. So because of that, they ruin things. But when you could say, this is how I feel and I'm pissed, but that's my only mom. That's my only dad. I don't have 5 moms. I don't have 10 dads. So when you could put that perspective, now we get what's called one and few. One and few means special. We can go out and buy thousands and thousands and thousands of Kias, but we can only buy a handful of Ferraris.
Yeah.
The more right, the more special something is, there's fewer of it.
Yeah.
So by design in life, we're already being told how special our parents are when you're only granted one each. Other people can mentor you, other people could show you stuff, you could give credit to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, 2 people made you. So that's a perspective,
Hmm.
little things, and
Yeah.
those are to control your emotion.
Yeah, and that's great that you say that because it's very similar to like what meditation, is saying. Like when you put perspective on the mind, is not to do anything to it, is observing. It really just
Yeah,
observes the mind and the mind settles itself. So that perspective that you're saying is almost like in meditation, you're putting yourself in the third person watching everything.
that's
And
right.
and then you can act and not react, which I really love that. There was one thing, and ladies and gentlemen, he's not blowing smoke. I remember one time, we were uh, doing a morning meeting, and I came in and I had long hair to my shoulders. And the rule in the organization was that we could not have long hair. And so I got a compliment on my hair from our head of organization, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And he was the only one that was shaking his head, and I was like, "Why is Master Robertson shaking his head?" And we had the whole meeting was about why do I have long hair, and I was just getting berated by everybody. I was so upset. And now this is the point of it all. When I was young, I was very explosive. And he's so right. I burned a lot of bridges before. And I'm in that meeting grinding my teeth, and I really wanted to say something. And Master Robertson took my book and he wrote in it, and then he gave it back to me. And when I opened it up, it said, if you have something to say it, but respectfully. And it was the greatest gift that I had, because I did want to say something, but when you're afraid, or when you don't want to ruin things, we oftentimes neglect ourselves. And we're like, you know what? And we bite our teeth, and then we build our inner resentment towards ourselves, going, man, I should have said something, da da da. But that moment was freeing, because it's like, you know what? All right, what's the anger? Okay, I'm angry. Why? This, and this. Okay, how can I say that without busting off the emotion? And sure enough, I said everything respectfully. I said my hair didn't reflect my leadership. My leadership skills were great. My skills were great. My students loved me, and we were increasing our school at the time, so revenue was great, et cetera, et cetera. And I hit the facts. But because I did that, the head of the organization thanked me for it. He said how smart I was, but then he hit me with facts too. The rule was short hair, so either I follow the rule or I don't. And then there was a mutual respect and understanding there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a key thing, like Master Robertson's saying. Perspective is a huge one.
And one of my heroes in life, Arnold Schwarzenegger, top bodybuilder, movie actor, he always said this. He said, do not break the law, but
bend the rules.
Yeah. So as long as you know, okay, if it's a law, no fight, it's not for me to do. But if it's a rule, if I can challenge it with an educated point of view, challenge it, but know that when something's a law, and sometimes companies have laws, like this is the law at this company. We keep our hair short, there's no facial hair. If you go into a kitchen, cooks wear nets. The hair can't fall on food. A cook can't go, no, I'm not down with that. No, you're right? There's certain laws, right? So you must know when you're doing a law versus a rule. And it's okay to break a rule. It's okay to challenge a rule if your point of view can bring an educational perspective that makes everybody go, because if no one ever does that, we would not be the society we are today, right? Slavery wouldn't be over, right? Women would never have voted, right? So we got to challenge rules. They change our life when we challenge them. But there's a difference when something's a law, like you stop at a red light, you just do. There's nothing to talk about there.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, for good reason. And I love that you brought up Arnold, because that's going into my next thing. Since you have a bunch of titles under you. Like I said, author, champion bodybuilder as well, speaking of Arnold, because we were always in the gym. But one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you told me this, and I want you to tell the viewers, is how do you prioritize when you're multi-passionate like me and you? Because we want to do everything, obviously, but, how do you personally prioritize it? Because I remember one time you used to tell me you need to know the difference between job and hobby. And so because I was just like, man, I don't need to make money, and you're like, you got to live, man, you got to make money. Right. So how would you tell our listeners to prioritize when they have multiple goals like me and you do?
Well, that's a great question. Sometimes one of the curse of being human is when you find yourself good at a couple things, because then you're like, what do I do? What do I choose? Every once in a while, I tell people, when you know you're only good at one thing, it's a blessing because you don't chase anything else. Right? I'm just good at this. I'm done. I'm good
Dog
at
with a
running.
bone. Arr.
But every once in a while, being multi-talented, you're like, I could do a little bit of this, I could do a little. But even when you're multi-talented, you owe yourself this special word: prioritize. And when you prioritize, it doesn't mean you cannot do many. It means you've organized it. See, people don't understand that prioritize is just a beautiful word for, did you organize it? So I want to play baseball. I want to write plays. I want to do podcasts. I want to bodybuild. All right, let's organize it. Podcast pays the bills. That's number one. Work out when I'm free. Play baseball when the fellas gather. If they don't gather, I'll wait. Like, organize it. But often, most people, and now we're going to go back to martial arts, most people miss the beauty of Pumse. Pumse is organized. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we learn to take the list of our greatness and say, this is first in priority, this is second, this is third, this is the last. If we can do that for ourselves, and then we just go in that order. The biggest mistake is to sit in the middle of it and go, I'll just do this today, I'll just do that tomorrow. Then you keep getting nowhere. Day after day, it's just another mess. So do what you got to do to make the living. If you can't pay the bills, if you can't pay the light, if you can't put gas in your car, you shouldn't be playing baseball for fun, right? Like, pay the bills, put the gas in the car, keep things going. Then you could say, sure, I'll meet you on Saturday for baseball, right? So organize from most important to least important. And that's a great lesson. And if most people understand that, everybody's fine. But most people sit in the middle and they don't put an organizing to it. And it's like, just this today, just that today, that's it. And you can't do that year after year. No way. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and that's so great that you're saying that, because you know me, I was free spirited. I just wanted to do whatever the hell I wanted to. But I recently now I write in a planner and I time block, because I figured out, which is crazy. I figured out, especially like you said, that you're when you're multi-talented and multi-passionate, is that I work best under a schedule, because it keeps me focused on one thing at a time. And then also it teaches me, like, oh, this is your time block. You have to let that go. You got to move on to the next thing. And it's just like, well, if I didn't finish it today, I have to organize it for tomorrow now. So,
And put it in tomorrow's time block for that
correct.
spot. Yep.
Yeah. And then not only that, I think what really, and this is great because it's going to get into both of us, what really first got me into that after, because you told me Grandmaster, everybody, but I think the one thing that made me start to get organized was bodybuilding, because when you're not following your macros, when you're not following your micros, when you're not doing the exact sets and reps, if you're not resting properly, if you're not working out properly, you're never becoming a champion. I got the opportunity to at least qualify before I got my sickness. I got to qualify to go to a show to get my pro card. I qualified. I never went to the show, unfortunately, but I got to that position. You won overall first place in your division. So do you say that sports would get you into that mindset, because you've also played football in high school, you've also done many other sports? So would you tell the audience, yes, getting into a sport would help with that mindset, and should they start early too, like we did back in school, etc.?
Yes, because number one, I've been privileged enough that every sport that I've ever done, I've become a champion at. Football, baseball, track, bodybuilding, martial arts. I've reached each level a champion level. And like you just said, there is no champion without planning. So once you learn, I got to get up at 7, I got to drink water, I got to take my vitamins, I got to take my protein. Once you have that, this is first, this is second. I don't get up and watch TV before I drink water, before taking my protein, right? Like these are the things. When you get that mindset, it organizes you for success. When you want to kick high, you're sitting on the floor stretching. All right, my plan is to head kick in the tournament. Well, you're stretching 10, 15 minutes a day. So sports, people love to say that the athlete is not the brain person. You can't play a sport without brain and heart, because brain and heart is what makes a champion, not the working out. The working out physically, everybody gets tired. Everybody's exhausted at some point. The mind and the heart takes the champion past that exhaustion. When that person goes to rest, the champion says 10 more. I'm going to be better than that person that just took a break. I'm going to tell you a beautiful Kobe Bryant story. You're going to love this. You'll never forget this. Kobe Bryant was in the gym. He was shooting shots. Another player came in. They're like, what are you doing? What are you shooting shots for? He's like, well, just got to practice. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to be just like Kobe. I'm going to start practicing too. So Kobe goes, yeah, you know what, man? Let's just call it a day, man. We've been at it. We both played the game today. Let's just call it a day. The guy's like, all right, you're Kobe's Kobe. They walk off. They're like, I'll call it. I'll catch you later. That dude goes to Kobe's room. You're Kobe. You're Kobe. He's not there. Walks around. Goes back out in the gym. He's like, yo, you told me call it a day. Kobe's like, I told you to call it a day because I wanted to practice more than you. I didn't think you'd believe that.
Yes.
The mindset of a champion. It's like Kobe is like, how do I practice more than you, even if I got to fool you?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Tom Brady have that similar thing? Wasn't it that he was practicing early in the morning? They're like, "Oh man, what time you got here?" He's like, 6 o'clock, and then so the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna come in at 5:30," and then when he gets at 5:30, Tom Brady was already in the gym, and he's like, "What?" And then
Yeah.
he's like, "What time did you get in?" He goes, "I got in at 5." He's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna come in at 5." And then all of a sudden he comes back in at 5, and then Tom Brady was in the gym. He's like, "Yo, what the hell?" And it's because he was like, I knew he was gonna come and try to work me. He's like, I'm not letting that happen.
I'm going to let you know, no matter what time you set, I'm better than it.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there lets you know a champion isn't physical. It's here.
Yeah.
It's right here. And the best of the best have it. The best of the best. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love
Yeah. I want to, before we move on,
it.
this is gonna tie into it, but really quick, how do you tap into your own mind? Because I've said it before, and we'll say it, live for our audience.
Uh,
I've had the privilege to be among fascinating martial artists with fascinating abilities. But I've always said, I don't know how, I don't know why, but you're on another level. And you always told me it was the mental side. But do you specifically have a technique that you dive deep into your mind, or was that something always ingrained in you? Like, what is that extra, because you used to always say extraordinary, is nothing but a little extra. It's the extra part. That's
Right.
it. So how do you get in there?
Well, one of the things that a lot of people think is important is competing. I always thought it was important to be a learner. So some people, I'm going to compete, I'm going to compete, I'm going to compete, and then they compete and then they stop. I make my mind to learn, and I don't see that learning stops. So I have learned longer than some people compete. So that's the first thing. I'm naturally always wanting to know. I'm always wanting to go, why is that? How'd that kick get faster? Or why is that? Well, that. So I'm willing to do the learning. So then I tap into the greatest thing that has ever happened to me and you. And I always associate it. I tell everybody, when I became a black belt, I knew that I could become anything. Like, that's the measure. So when somebody says, if somebody comes up to me and say today, can you fly a plane? Inside of me, I would go, I became a black belt. Yes, if you teach me. Like everything runs through that thought. Can you become a scientist? Well, I became a black belt. Yes, if you teach me. Like, to me, becoming a black belt was the hardest thing, because you have to overcome being in front of people. You have to learn. You have to study. You have to retain. You have to become tough. You have to show up when you're probably afraid. You have to take a hit knowing it's going to hurt, but show bravery when bravery is running out of your mind. Like, hey, I'm not with you. It's going to hurt. Like, all these things have to be accomplished for you to hold a black belt. People think when somebody's a black belt, it's like, oh, a couple of kicks and no. You're stronger, you're faster, you're smarter, you're more conscious. You believe in yourself. You fought within yourself. You fought quitting. You fought injury. You fought your friends starting with you and leaving. You didn't. So many things. So every time something comes to me, well, I became a black belt. Sure.
Yeah.
Like that's my always. Like, I became a black belt. And then I go, of course I can. Because to me, not too many people could become an authentic black belt. I'm talking about where your blood, sweat, tears, pain, earn it. So everybody has a measurement of what makes them a leader. If you listen to it, Michael Jordan says, basketball made me a leader, made me an icon, made me a NBA basketball great. It gave me a financial status, right, blah, blah, blah. Then maybe a dancer, Jennifer Lopez, whatever, would say being a dancer and a singer made me this, maybe that. So everybody has that tool that makes them the same thing. For me, black belt did that. So when black belt did that, everything could be done. Everything could be done because I already became a black belt. That's just it. And if you ever get to that point where you tell yourself, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, I'm frustrated, I thought this would work, this would work. If you just stop and say, I've been training 20 years. I'm not a quitter at anything. Martial arts is hard. If I didn't quit, be like, whatever, let's go. I'm in. Let's go. Right? Once you start relating it, you'll always go like, yeah, martial arts will always reboot you. Always.
So what about for the viewers that have never trained? So how would you tap into that little extra mental on the inner and the within? So for the people that haven't trained, how would you do that?
Well, then when you have not trained in any martial art or any sport, you have to find the part of you. Some people today call it the why, like what's your why, right? But really what that is saying is you have to find the voice inside of you that is supposed to be why you are on earth. Some people are born to make pizza. Like that's what they're born to do. Some people are born to make famous cookies. Some people are born to be a doctor. Some people are born to be an entertainer. They don't know how to do anything else. They're just entertainers. Something in you knows what you're supposed to be. And with 7+ billion people on the earth, that answer is only in you. There's no other place to find that answer. You got to sit down and say, I want to be a journalist. I don't know what it is. Every time I see a story, every time I read something, I'm more passionate than anything else on. Then you got to call on that to lead you. It's got to pull you. Arnold said when he saw weights, whoa, that's going to turn, like it called him. Like, so when you've not done martial art, there is something in you that you're supposed to contribute to in this world. Michael Jackson was supposed to be the singer and dancer that wowed us all. He was not supposed to be at Walmart at the cashier. There's no way we could see him there, right? Michael Jordan was supposed to be the basketball player he became. He is not supposed to be a mechanic. You have to find that thing in you that says, it pulls you. It's all, you don't even decide. It's like, I don't know why I'm drawn to movies. I don't know why I'm drawn to telling stories. I don't know why I make everything funny. Maybe I should be a comedian because I want to make everything funny all the time. I want to make death funny, right? So, right? No, when you're like that, you're like, I think I should be a comedian. Like, so you gotta find that thing that makes you have your X on this earth. Once you know that, you're drawn in that direction. You're just drawn.
I want to add to that because it's so funny that everything you're saying for the viewers on here, you said it to me growing up. You know, you always mention idols like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, Arnold, Michael Jordan. You know, all these guys you've always mentioned. And what's really great to me is that I have to add is, yes, find those mentors. If it's not a physical mentor, read biographies, read these people, you know, and surround yourself with people, like I said, that are better than you, because there are sometimes, this is, even though we're giving all these tips, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's just not. Michael Jordan almost quit. I saw the Last Dance documentary and I loved it because I heard the stories, but when you hear it from him, out of his mouth, it's a different tune.
Yeah.
He said that when he got cut of the basketball team, that he went home and cried. We all know, oh yeah, he went home and cried. But we didn't hear the part that he went to his family and was like, I'm going to quit basketball. And his dad was the one that was like, no, you're not. It's just like, if you're going to quit, that's fine. But if you're going to do this, you need to work hard. He said both his parents were always like, you need to work hard. And that saved him from quitting because he had support like that. I really do believe we need to give ourselves a fighting chance. If you're depressed, don't hang out with depressed people. Hang out with positive people that's going to bring you out of that.
That's right. And you know, it's funny you say that because I say all the time, I tell Rob and I tell many other people, we often want to surround ourselves with a state of mind that doesn't help us. So, for example, when you're sad, it's probably not smart to listen to sad music and watch the sad movie and hang around a friend that's not going to pull you out of being sad. But that's comforting to do. Listen to the sad song Remember and watch the sad movie. Like, it's comforting. And that friend that's like, I get it. No. You want the person that's like, life's like that. Life's not predictable. I know you're hurting, hurt for you, but we got to move on. So the greatest thing that we could do sometimes in life, not only find people better than us, sometimes it's important to find people different than us. You see, we place such an emphasis on finding people like us, but if everybody is like you have nothing to learn. You learn when somebody's different from you. Even if you don't agree, you learned another view. And that's the beauty of, for example, that's just the beauty of eating in another culture. If you always eat Spanish food, or if you always eat West Indian food, well, no one around you does anything new, you won't know what Chinese food tastes like. You won't know what Italian food tastes like. You won't know what it's like to eat a gyro, you know? But once you step out and say, not only do I want people better than me, I don't mind people different than me, because different shows me what I don't know. And yes, to the other point, there's not one, and I mean not one person great at anything that they're great at that they never had a moment of, I don't want to do it. Michael Jackson didn't want to sing sometimes, so his dads will whoop that booty. Everybody knows the stories of his horrible dad, right? Michael Jordan wanted to quit. Arnold was told, you're too big, you're too bulky, your accent sucks, you're never going to make it. At some point, he was like, man, maybe I shouldn't. But the bodybuilder in him, work hard, it pulled him. Oh, how did I beat everybody? I put in more reps and I put in more sets. So then he said, how do I change my accent? More reps and sets, more dialogue, more speaking, so there's nobody great at anything that's like, oh yeah, it's it. No. Everybody's had a moment. The great people get over their moment. That's it.
Yeah, and it's so great that it kind of ties back into earlier with the emotions, is that yes, you have to have the emotion, but you have to have the logical side too. One is not better than the other, but complete balance is very, very powerful. Very absolutely powerful.
And balance is the key component to life, because balance is so important that we can't even exist without it. For example, you never hear of something, you cannot find the other. If you hear up, if nobody says anything, your mind goes down. Left, right. Nobody's got to say anything. If you hear something, you could pull up the immediate opposite. And here's a wonderful view. If you take your hand and you went all the way right, you would still have a left on this side. Because it's impossible. You must, life exists on balance. If you believe in Christianity, even God balanced himself. He didn't have to make the devil, but he did. See? So if the biggest dude in this, form of, way of thinking or being, if he balanced himself, everything's balanced. And then if you're not based on that, and you're more of like a Buddhist, or more of a just personal nature enlightenment person, then nature itself tells you it's balanced. Nature, up, down, left, right, wind, water, earth, sky, right?
Exactly.
So it's only unbalanced people that suffer, not balanced people.
Yeah. And that's the truth. It's so funny because in Buddhism, the wheel of suffering is incomplete. It's not a full circle. It has an opening, a gap. So people think, oh, I'll just go into the gap and I'm free. But nope, it's into another wheel of suffering. So they said that the only way freedom, nirvana, is reached is when you're in the center, not participating, when you're complete balanced, when you're in the middle way, as they call it, which is funny.
Middle way.
And what's also interesting is though that how you're saying nature. A lot of people don't know this, and it blew my mind. I was listening to my favorite philosopher last night, who's been past, Alan Watts. He said that sound doesn't even exist without your ears.
That's right.
because it's just vibration. But if you don't have ears to hear it, there's no sound.
There's no sound. That's right. And me seeing you and you seeing me is that light bounces off our optical,
Mm-hmm.
and then that light then flips an image.
Yep.
So once again, another internal experience, but a balance of something coming in from external being flipped by our optical and projecting,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, I mean, it's hard. Believe me, there are times in everybody's life where you're like, oh, I know I'm not balanced. I'd be like, leaning tower pizza. Like
Yeah.
you know you're about to fall sometimes. You
Yeah.
feel it, but the goal in life is to keep fighting till
Yeah.
you're there.
So, top 5 books or documentaries or anything for someone's mind, what would you recommend?
I would say I had a wonderful time reading Christopher Reeves, the what I would call the Superman, right? And we all know that he passed and fell off the horse, and that changed his life. But he wrote a book, I believe, was something like Nothing's Impossible. And I read that book, and more than ever after that book, I was like, yeah, he is Superman. Because it was after the injury, all he still tried to do, just the celebration of this month, I moved, and to know that like you're still for months and oh, and he championed that, and then 2-3 months later a toe, and it was like the never give up spirit. I mean, you know how many people would be like, man, I'm done, all I moved was my pinky, but he was so empowered. So that book, made me say, yeah, man, celebrate every and anything we could do. Another great book, Muhammad Ali, I think is one of the geniuses of our time. At a time when it wasn't popular, he did several things. Muhammad Ali put black on his back. He was at a time when people were trying to tell you you are a Negro or a Negro, or you should be a slave, or you shouldn't be educated, or drink at that white fountain. He was running around going, I'm black and I'm pretty. I'm too free to be hit. And he was telling you, like, don't be afraid to say it. Don't tell that person at a time that people were suppressing you. So just about anything Muhammad Ali writes is amazing, but some of his work, it's from that mindset of be yourself, love yourself, tell people what you got to tell them, stand up for what you believe. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when he was at the height of his career, when nobody gives up the height of their career. You could give up in the beginning, you could give up when you're old and you're like, but at the peak of your career, he was like, I'm not gonna go and fight people I don't know. They stripped him of his license. He's like, fine, do that, but I'm gonna be me. Take my boxing license. People don't give up at the height of their career for what they believe. You're normally so afraid you bend. He did that at a time where it's like, man, that's your way of living. He said, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm Ali. So I love that. Sidney Poitier was, and still is, a person that my mom raised our view on. Sidney Poitier is the first African-American man to win an Oscar. And then all the great movies that he's done and directed ever since. And one of the things I admire so much about Sidney Poitier is that when he came from the Bahamas, and making his movies, people told him, well, you need to make this movie, you need to make this movie, you need to. And he was like, well, I can't play that role. Why? Or who are you to turn down money? And he said, I can't play a role that my parents wouldn't be proud of. You got to understand, they raised me with certain values. They raised me with certain views. We came up from nothing, no money, poverty. But you want me to play a role like I'm a slave, like I'm a nobody. He's like, I can't do that. And this was a time where sometimes he's starving. He's on the street. It's called The Measure of a Man, his book. And, you know, he had a family. And in that time, a role could be like $2,500, 2,500 50 years ago is like 40 grand, you know, $50,000, you know. But he said no to it because it didn't match the character of what he was raised with. So he starved. So his book is called The Measure of a Man. And then, honestly, I think in my own work, I hit a home run when I wrote Fall Down, Fail Forward. And that concept is something I learned playing football. And that book is done by a New York publishing company. And here's the mindset behind that book. We're all going to fall. We're all going to fail. It's inevitable. Don't ever think you're going to go through life perfect, happy, always succeeding. It's just garbage. It's unbalanced, right? So we're all going to fall. We're all going to fail. But what I learned in football is if you fall forward, get up. Fall forward, get up. Fall forward, get up. You're advancing. One day when you fall, it's a touchdown. That's where you want
to. Yeah.
I learned that from football. So go forward, fall, get up, go forward, fall. So my mindset became fail in the right direction, fall in the right direction. Just go that way when you do it. And I wrote that book on that concept. Like, if today you go for an interview and it doesn't work, you fail, you fell. And if you say, it didn't work because I didn't put on a suit, the next day you put on a suit and you fail again, but they say, look, I like you. Let me. There's nothing here, but let me pass you on to somebody else. And then you're like, okay, all right. So I put on a suit. It didn't work, but now they're passing me on to somebody else, and I'm gonna find that person's name. I'm gonna go and find out what that person likes, and I'm gonna have that in an interview. Like, fall forward. Keep advancing even though it's not going right. And that's what football teaches you. First down, messed up, other team. All right, we're back at it, other team. Keep going. Oh, touchdown. Yes, I fell, I got tackled 40 times, but I got a touchdown. And that's all we have to learn. We have to learn to fail forward to what we want. And probably anything, I would honestly say anything that you could grab your mind on. Some are heavy, some are too heavy for anybody. But if you could ever read anything from like the Dalai Lama, anybody, the people that are, Thich Nhat, one of the Vietnamese monks, these are people who they make a life and a lesson and a love out of peace first, peace within yourself. So I believe any of their works, anybody that's flirting into Buddhism, and I'm not saying like, Buddhism is everything. I love it personally, but I know some people have to think. But what I'm saying is, when you're reading something that's just based on enlightenment, I love Christianity, but sometimes it's a lot of crap. But Buddhism is just enlightenment. It's just enlightenment, where they're not telling you, if you're not doing this, God's mad at you, da-da-da-da-da-da. The end result of Christianity, for me, somebody should just say, I have faith in Jesus, I have faith in God, and if that faith makes me a better person, be it. If something makes you a better person, go for it. in terms of Buddhism, Buddhism teaches don't be harmful to anything, like not even to a human. Like, don't even step on the ant. Like, how much nicer can that like mindset be? Like, don't squash the roach. It has a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, when you follow that, come on, man.
Nah, I get too scared. I have to grab the raid.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
ah!
bro. Oh.
For real. Actually, it's funny that you say that. Two of my favorite books are actually from the Dalai Lama. One of them is the Book of Joy with him and Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite books of all time. And then also he has the Dalai Lama has the Art of Happiness,
Yeah.
and the
That's what.
big oh yeah, that's cool. The one big thing I took out of the Art of Happiness is that the Dalai Lama said people mistake happiness and joy. He said people think like how you were saying earlier. I love how this all ties in to the very beginning because we're about to wrap up. Is that he said when people say I will be happy when I get something, and all of a sudden you feel that feeling but then it goes away, he goes, because that's not true happiness. He's like, that's joy you're feeling instead. He's like, joy, it comes and goes. He goes, but happiness is at your core. He's like, so if your core is depression, no matter how much joy you feel,
Yeah.
you'll never be happy until you change the core in you. Is like your happiness levels basically are just in your core. So if you're kind of happy, you're always going to be kind of happy. If you're really happy, you're always really happy. So,
Right.
and the reason
Right.
why I say that is because I feel like, and I said this also with Robin and many others, I feel like this law of attraction movement has really got people in a false sense of places because they're like, oh, if you think if you're sad or anything else, but instead of positive, then you're going to attract bad things. And I think that's a load of crap. It's because it's what is at your core is what you attract. It's who you are is what you attract. It's not like, oh, I just got to think positive, think positive. No, you have to, down to your core, be that. And sometimes it takes a journey. Mine was a journey to be where I am right now, that I'm actually happy and content. Other people are blessed with amazing parents, a lot of philosophy, and they're just positive, you
Right.
know? So I really do believe that. And that's a great book and how it ties into everything.
You know, before we move on, I just want to tell you one of the great understandings that I have learned over the years is everything in us is a seed. A seed is the beginning of all life, whether we plant it in the garden or we recognize that seeds are planted in us. So everything is a seed. It's just a matter of what does that seed mean inside of you. So, for example, we could both have the seed of anger, but I would probably get angry at something that will not bother you. And when you're angry at something, I'm like, that's bothering you,
Yeah.
right? We could both have the seed of happiness, seed of joy. Everything is a seed. It's just that for some of us, that seed's bigger than other times and other people. So one person could say, like, no, the seed of stealing. No, stealing's wrong. And then we could say, man, if you're really hungry, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that seed in us, like, look, man, if you're starving, I understand. Whereas somebody could be like, nope, if you're starving, it's still just wrong. It's the same seed. But so it's how that seed is watered within each person. But we're all full of these seeds. And it's just how that seed is made a need within. And it's like I said, we could both be looking at a situation and be like, oh, that don't bother me at all. And to somebody else, they're fuming.
Mm-hmm.
right? Same thing. So it's just a matter of what is in you that is bigger than other times or bigger than another person's view.
Yeah,
So
that's absolutely right. No two people see the same tree. You know,
right.
it's like you said, it's what you water, what you do every day. What are your habits? That's why I do believe in self-reflection. I ask myself every day, what can I improve? And, the whole learning and the questioning thing, I honestly think I got it when I trained under you. I got my third degree black belt under you, and you gave me all the history lessons that I never knew. So then I started asking questions. I asked you a million questions, and then that curiosity came into bodybuilding. I asked my coach, Jack Barantini, by the way, look him up, guys, if you don't know, amazing bodybuilding coach, SMP, Superior Metabolic Performance. I asked him everything. I was so curious. I was like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Which led me into asking my other mentors and asking this. And now I'm here today because of that, curiosity. So guys, yeah, if you have certain seeds that are beneficial, water those. It's the Indian story about the two wolves inside of you. It's like there's a bad one and there's a good one, paraphrasing it. And they ask which one wins is the one that you feed the most.
That's right. That's very true. And the one you feed becomes a monster. So
Yeah,
feed them.
exactly. So what's next for you? I mean, again, like we were discussing, you have so many amazing success stories under your belt. This is why we're having this conversation. Um, you even have your own day. Like
Yeah.
you have Rodney Robertson Day. That's a huge thing, you
April
know?
20, April 25th in Central Florida
Yeah,
is
so how did that come to play?
for many years I've been doing things in the community for the community. And one of the things that I did that helped a certain level of community was I would speak and teach martial arts on anti-bullying. And I would speak on the perspective of you don't have to like fight a bully. You have to fight within yourself so the bully sees you different. So instead of like, no, do the work within. So if a bully sees this person, they pick on you. A month from now, when you're like this, they're like, I don't want to mess that person. You didn't fight them. You fought in you. You changed what they were looking at. And I just kept pushing that perspective. And I also got it out to thousands and thousands of kids. And the mayor of Orlando just thought that that was a great thing that I was teaching. I was teaching beat the bully, but I never spoke about kicking or punching. I spoke about fight for them to see you different. There's things you could do. If you walk with your head down, change it. If you walk with your shoulders up, straighten it. Right? Like there was acts that you could do, and they would look at you and go, "Oh, I don't think I want to test that person anymore." So my view was always change yourself, and the bully don't bother you. Right? A rabbit looks at a tiger and goes, no. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So when you own up, when you lion up, tiger up, then people go, I ain't messing with that person. But when people look at you and they see a snail, they want to step on you. So my view was change how you're looked at, which meant do the work within. So my view spread, my Stop the Bully book spread, and it was because my view was, it was not confrontational. My view was deal with yourself. And when you deal with yourself, nobody's going to mess with you. So that became, from the mayor of Orlando, April 25th, Rodney Robertson Day. So it's one of the coolest things. Like I met somebody that said, do you realize not everybody has a day? Like, I'm like, oh man, you put it that way.
No,
Like
it's
you,
true.
I'm like, oh yeah. Like,
Man, if we had a Danny Vega day, everyone would be like, what? Like, what, what do you mean you got a Danny Vega day? Be like, it's time to party, baby. No, okay.
Hey, you're gonna have a Danny Vega podcast day.
Yes, we do. We need it.
Just keep it up. Keep it
Thank you.
up. Keep interviewing the right people.
Thank you.
You're
So,
you're gonna be the millennial. Let's see. He just um, he just passed away. He actually asks questions the way you do. His name. He has the glasses. Um,
yes. Oh, it's in my head. I know exactly who you're talking about. Is it
who
King?
speaks behind Larry King?
Larry King.
Larry King. He questions just like you. You have a little Larry King in you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Your series of questioning, your way to take things to the next story. Yeah, you keep it up.
I appreciate that, sir. All right, last two things, and then we're done. So, what's next for Rodney Robertson? And then for the people that want to be where you are, whether it's a martial artist, whether it's, an author or anything else that you have successes under your belt, what should they do? What's the steps that they should take? Because I remember very clearly you told me. I remember when I was struggling. I was like, well, you knew that you wanted to be a martial arts master your whole life. And you're like, no, I didn't. And then you told me your journey, how life put you into the martial arts master position. So, yeah, those two things. What's next and what can people do?
Okay, well, I'll start with the second one first. Yeah, I just wanted to train. I just wanted to be a black belt at best. Didn't want to be an instructor. Didn't want all those titles. But when you're doing good at something, it's easy to continue it. So if you keep shooting well, chances are you may always shoot. You don't shoot well and go, let me see if I could pass more, right? So that's what happened to me with martial arts. Like, it's like, okay, well, now I'm here. So the next level teaches me this. The next level teaches you this. The next level gives more in. So I think the process is keep loving what you do and remain teachable. People don't remain teachable. People sometimes reach a level and go, oh, I know. Oh, I know. Don't do that. Let the dumbest person in the world tell you something and go, oh, that's a good view. Like, remain teachable. Let anybody that you meet could give you something and you go, I'm really smarter than you. I'm really more educated than you. I have more experiences than you. But what you just said, I'm going to remember. Right? So that's the first thing. If you can do that, you will always be on the path. Today, I think you're doing a good job. I think you have a Larry King type of, and honestly, no one was on air longer than Larry King.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So imagine if you now put that in your head and go, well, let me pull up all Larry King's interviews.
I actually thought that as soon as you told me that. I'm not going to lie to you, sir. As soon as you said that, I'm like, yo, I got to watch more Larry King now.
Yo, Larry King has interviewed the icons of our time and prior. He's sitting down with Elvis, Michael Jackson, every president. I mean, if you just listen to how he questions and what he gets from them, you're just going to keep advancing. That's what I'm talking about. So just keep advancing, keep loving what you're doing. And, 20 years from now, we're going to be going, Danny Vega King? What? Like, right. That legacy. In terms of what's left for me now or what I'm actually trying to do, and I am purposely doing something. I've been associated as a martial artist for a long time, but I've always really known that I'm an artist. I chose martial arts for many years to bring the art out of me, to bring the conversation out of me. now I'm branching more to just being an artist. So I've picked up tap dancing again. I do professional ballroom dancing. Like I'm doing things where soon I would say, soon I would hope somebody says, you can't call him a martial artist. I think you just gotta call him an artist. So I'm fattening the artist bubble. I'm not just making it like, oh yeah, he's a Taekwondo guy. So I'm doing that. And then I've always been into poetry. So that's another art expression. So I'm just fattening the artist in me. And if one day somebody just says, he's an artist, then I'm going to know I did it right.
Well, I already think that of you, sir. I think the big thing about this channel, especially, with the podcast and all my other videos, is that we're human beings are not just one thing. Like, there's a lot of different elements. There, like you said with C's, there's a lot of different things that make us who we are. If you think about it, all the greats, they have multiple sources of income or some things that they do because of their love for it. And it's just like, I can't be just a basketball player. I'm also this, this, and this. Like the business side of Michael Jordan was incredible when he was talking about the Air Jordan shoes. Like that was unheard of for an NBA player at the time, and then same thing, goes with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not only was he a bodybuilder, not only was he in the movies, he also was the reason why fitness spread during that era. He's the one that, endorsed the Special Olympics. He's the one that went, and not only that, even though people have different political views on him, but he was in politics.
All right. Of course.
So all these things make us who we are.
And what people very rarely understand about his level of politics, he went into politics to give back to America given to him. You know, you can't get better than that. Whether you agree with his view or not, he did it because America gave him a chance. A little boy from Austria comes here, becomes famous, rich, bodybuilder, and governor. And he says, the best thing you could do is serve people back. How could you be mad at that?
Yep. And that's one thing that you definitely do, not only in the martial arts, but everything else you do, sir. So if you think, if someone thinks of you as an artist, you already got one. So thank you so much. Master Robertson, where can we find all your stuff? Your books, your websites. Just go ahead and promote anything you want to promote right now.
Well, thank you. If you anybody Google my name, Rodney Robertson, then most likely a picture of a book would come up. So most of my books have some type of a Google status, and then it would just be like, click here to order. Anybody knows I'm right currently in Orlando, Florida, Castleberry, Florida, and I run a martial arts school. And if you're ever in the area, and I have many books of my own, come and get it from me personally. And just look me up. And my school is Robertson Martial Arts and Yoga. And stop in, and it'll be more personal.
Yeah, and I will definitely put all the links in the description once I have all of them. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Master Rodney Robertson, or should I say Artist Rodney Robertson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was awesome. God bless.
Yep, and to all of you out there, we love you. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.